Parliament agrees this text.
Gracias, señora Jensen. Tiene ahora, en nombre del Consejo, para expresar su opinión, la palabra el señor Dimítris Kούρκουλας, el ministro Kούρκουλας.
Minister, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President, honourable members. I would like, first of all, to thank both Mr. Lamassoure and Mrs. Jensen for the very comprehensive presentation of this very important file and the very important debate on own resources. I understand that the efforts of this Parliament to change the own resources system has not given concrete results yet, but I think the effort to have a more simple, transparent system of own resources will continue after with the next Parliament and the next Commission. As you all know, there was a proposal that was presented by the European Commission in 2011, which was linked to the multi-annual financial framework for the period 2014-2020. These proposals were examined by the Council and the preparatory bodies of the Council in parallel with the MFF, and an agreement was reached at the European Council meeting on February 2013, covering not only the expenditure side of the MFF, but also its financing, the revenue side. It then took a few months until the two institutions, the Parliament and the Council, agreed on a common understanding of all elements related to the MFF package, the new MFF regulation, the new interinstitutional agreement, the different sectoral legislative proposals, and also a number of joint statements. One of these statements related to the very important issue of own resources, and it acknowledged that further work is needed on this question. It was therefore agreed to create a high-level group on own resources, which has recently started its work, and the Council welcomes the recent start of the work of this group, and we are convinced that the group, under the chairmanship of Mr. Monti, will carry out an excellent work. We fully support the work of the group and look forward with interest to the first assessment, which should be available at the end of this year. Over the next 2 years, the group will undertake a general review of the own resources system, which, as it was already said, is very complex. On that basis, the Commission will assess if new own resources initiatives are appropriate, which could then be taken into consideration by the Commission when it prepares its proposals for the next multi-annual financial framework. For the period 2014-2020, the Council reached an agreement on a package of 3 legislative proposals in order to bring the system of own resources in line with the provisions of the Lisbon Treaty and the new MFF. The Council agreed to establish a regulation laying down implementing measures on the system of own resources, as foreseen in Article 311 of the Treaty. And it agreed on a limited number of modifications to the 2 existing elements of the own resources, the Council decision on the system of own resources and the Council regulation on the methods and procedures for making available the own resources and to meet cash requirements. The agreement reached in the Council takes into account the conclusions of the European Council of February 2013. They foresee that the system of own resources of the European Union will mainly remain unchanged for the period 14-20, with the exception of some modifications to the correction mechanism in favour of certain Member States, and a reduction of the share of costs retained by Member States for the collection of the traditional own resources. Now it is the European Parliament's turn, as foreseen in the Treaty. The European Parliament has been invited to consider this legislative package agreed by the Council, and it has been asked to give its consent on the draft Council regulation laying down implementing measures on the system of own resources, the new element which has been introduced by the Treaty of Lisbon. I would like especially to thank the European Parliament's rapporteurs, Mrs. Jensen and Mr. Dehaene, to whom I would also like to wish early recovery, to Mr. Lamassoure for their professionalism and for their constructive approach during this last period, which has made it possible to have this debate today. President, honourable members, I very much look forward to this Parliament's adoption of the opinion and its consent to these various files so that they can be closed before the end of the current legislature. This would pave the way for the process of national ratification as it is foreseen in the treaty. Thank you very much.
Gracias, señor Kúrkulas.
Thank you, Minister.
Este turno lo cierra el comisario Lewandowski
And I'd now like to pass
con
the
su
floor to
intervención en
Commissioner
nombre de la
Lewandowski.
Comisión.